Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and today, guys, I am joined by Josh Nieves. And Josh, if I killed your last name, please correct me. But
Yeah, Nieves, Nieves, you know what, man? It depends on the part of the world that you're located. It's all good, man.
I
All
guess
good.
being down in Florida, you get a lot of the Cuban and the Latin influence now, and then
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sure New
I
York
love it.
pronounces
I
it
love it, man.
completely
I wouldn't
different.
have it any other way.
uh, is the regional workforce development manager at Miller Electric and CEO of Ascender Consulting, second generation IBEW local union number three master electrician. Josh led teams as a foreman, superintendent, and executive on high profile projects, including the Brooklyn Bridge, Yankee Stadium, and Freedom Tower. He also owns the This Hudson Farm, 200 acres sustainable farm in New York, where he oversees all day to day operations. Josh is passionate about elevating careers and businesses in the construction industry, which is why we're having him on to have this conversation today, and improving workforce talent retention and creating impactful leadership development strategies. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Dylan.
Um, First and foremost, IBEW number three. What's number one and number two?
That's a great question, man. So IBW is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and essentially these are the numbers of the unions and where they're planted, right? So when we talk about number three, we're talking about one of the OGs of the game, right? So you could say the earliest number would probably be the earliest iteration of a local, and the latest, right, would be the old, well, I would say the newest, right?
Right.
So yeah, local three is what I would say okay, I'm a little biased. I would say the founding fathers of the IBW really paved the way for what union labor is today. So I'm very grateful to be a part of that organization.
Sure. It's probably one of the typically there's like three founding chapters um, for organizations. So you kind of have the three original ones for it. Obviously, New York being number three. Do you know what the first and second
That's
chapters?
an amazing question. I don't know. I know like even some other locals, like in New York City, local one, I believe is like the elevators union.
Mm,
Right? So I think it really depends on the way other unions are structured. From my understanding, some unions also get dissolved and maybe they merge. So I'm not currently sure if there is an IBW Local 1 out there. If there is, hopefully someone can watch this video, maybe make a comment or reach out to one of us. I'm really curious. But as far as I know, only Local 3, you
okay.
know.
All
Um,
right. No, it's just yeah. I mean, again, unions and you see it with like fraternal organizations and stuff like that too. You know, where they've got their um, numbers for it, and yeah, dissolve, and they assume the higher or lower number in most cases, a little
right.
more prestigious in
Yes.
that. So that's awesome, man. Um, I guess with that, I mean, second generation. So obviously, I take your father was an electrician, but really, how'd you get your start as being an electrician and then deciding you want to join the union?
Yeah. So great question. My father was what we call a signatory contractor with local union number three, meaning he had a contractual agreement with the union. So he was a union contractor, to put it simply. And so as a young man, I saw how well my father did. I saw that this is probably an older thing, but my mother stayed home, right? We don't see that a lot today. She was able to take care of us, and my father was out and about doing his thing. And we had a great life. We had the dog, the white picket fence, everything you could think of, beautiful cars that worked in the driveway. So to me, I just saw that this was a viable option for me. I saw that the life that I had provided for myself and my family. So it only made sense. And then also in high school, I'll be honest, my grades weren't the best. I was told that I was not university ready in 11th grade. So, and they weren't wrong, right? But what's interesting today is that they pointed me towards the trades. And that I also have a little gripe because, why did it take me not being university ready to be introduced to a trade career path when I was in high school, but that's another story, right? So basically, I just saw the life my dad provided, and I jumped into trade school in high school. I knew I was a very active, very physically active kid, loved playing sports, but I did not think I needed to know how to dissect a frog in high school. Didn't think I needed to learn algebra to be successful. I had a very entrepreneurial, self-driven mindset. So I decided to jump into trade school. I did 2 years of that in high school. And then from there, I got into the apprenticeship program with Local 3 at 18 years old.
That's awesome, man. And like I went the other route, if you will. I went through college and became an electrical engineer, got licensed, and I found my way to really I started opening panels as intern, with guys going around. I'm the engineer with a clipboard, right? Taking notes, doing arc flash studies and all that kind of stuff, and walking around with a 65-year-old electrician, open gear and plants, wearing all my PPE as we're going about doing it, handed him tools, right, being his helper for that. And that was kind of my intro to really electrical work as a intern, after my sophomore year in college, traveling around the country and doing this in all sorts of facilities, from grain elevators to industrial plants to you kind of name it, manufacturing facilities of all kinds. And so I'm the odd engineer that's had a good amount of field experience,
Great.
and opening gear and all that kind of stuff. It kind of just knew that that was the path, right? Like I lived off the grid, so I had a ton of experience with renewables and knew that, energy and electricity was kind of going to be my path. Um, that being said, I think that like yourself, there's so many guys and gals, kids that don't see what the trades has to offer, right? And all of its many facets, right? As a construction company, you've got not only the work in the field, you've got estimating in the office, you've got project managers, which obviously those guys are going to move up over time. You've got marketing folks, you've got
Yeah.
payroll, you've got finance, you've got, all the things, talent acquisition, right? Recruiting, retaining, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But there's, a whole big bucket of stuff out here that just, we think of the trades and think of, just working with your hands, which again is a huge portion of it.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. What did you see like from your dad in those formative years, through middle school, high school, with him and working, or did you get the opportunity to go onto some job sites before you joined the union, or what did that kind of look like? And did you see what was that path kind of looking like for you? Was it staying in the field, or did you even uh, consider any of the other side, I would say, of the trades of being an electrician?
Yeah. So basically, what I would do and how I got really what piqued my interest was the people that I met working with my father. So naturally, off on summers during high school, and I would just go work for my father, right? My dad had a shop out of Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn, New York. Some of the best pizza in the world. If you're ever out that way, go check that out. So my dad had a beautiful office, beautiful shop, old school brownstone, and I would just help out in the summers. And what would happen was I would load up the vans, I'd get all the tools ready, I would clean all the gang boxes out. Essentially I was almost like an expediter, if you will, and I would drive the trucks to the jobs, I'd deliver checks, and it wasn't originally the work that I fell in love with at the time, but it was the people. Meeting, and if you've ever met a New Yorker, we're really unique people, and in all the good ways possible, and in some bad ways, right? But and if you ever meet a New Yorker, they're going to tell you they're from New York. That's just the way it is, right? So when I met these guys, I grew up upstate. So I grew up in a very, I would say, sheltered environment, right? We always had acreage, kind of, you could say like the farm life. But I also had this duality where I was going down into the city every day to help my dad. So I just loved the personalities. These guys were just different, you know. They talk like sailors, but they all had a heart of gold. And I was just drawn to it. Again, very sheltered. So when I met a lot of these people, it was kind of like it was kind of like scratching that like rebel itch, I guess, if you will. Like the way they were just gritty, man. They didn't care that I was a kid. They would just say whatever was on their mind, and it was like watching HBO as a little kid at night. All the like crazy action movies came on. So I got my taste of like Die Hard early on as a kid, but in person, right? So I just loved it, and from there I built a relationship with the guys, and I would always look forward to just jumping in the van, and then eventually, when I was in high school, I started kind of working part time. So weekends, I'd go down to the city with my dad. I'd jump in a van with a guy, and I would just learn the trade. So that's essentially where like I started to get really interested, and then from there it was just, all gas, no brakes. I was committed to it, but I knew that I wanted to elevate within my career. You had asked, like the field or the office, like what did that look like for you? My dad was really big on continuous growth and continuous education. Never stay where you are, son. That's what he would always say. Don't get comfortable. Comfort is a dream killer, right? People say fear is a dream killer, right? I agree to an extent, but comfort could be equally a dream killer, right? People get comfortable, complacent, and that's when things start to kind of not work for you, right? So my father was really adamant about keep reaching, son. Always put one foot in front of the other, never get comfortable. So when I adopted that mindset very young, very young. So everywhere I went, it was always like, okay, I've reached this stage. What's next? What's next? And my goal was to just elevate and hit that ceiling in the field and go as far as I could until there was executive opportunities, which I was able to touch on. So,
That's awesome, man. I think one piece I want to go back to is it's about the people, right? Like you kind of fell in love with the people and the, gruff on the outside, but teddy bears on the inside.
yeah,
And we all know them, right? That's probably half the guys out there, right? Is
yeah,
maybe a little gruff. You get to know them, you get through that tough exterior. It's all love. They want the best for you. Because at the end of the day, everybody's kind of looking out for each other too on a job site, right? Making sure that
sure.
you're safe getting home. So there's going to be some of that in there for it. And really, this kind of goes into my next question of, is that the biggest reason that you stayed within the trades? Obviously, your dad, and I don't know if there was any obligation there to continue working in the family business, but why stay so long and continue to be in the trades, decades later?
Yeah. So, Dylan, this is something that I'm really I love answering this question. It comes up quite often. Many people don't. Many people don't. They get tired of it, whether if it's the culture, whether if it's the wear and tear on their body, or maybe lack of opportunity, right? They end up looking for the door. Uh, I was going to leave the business, full transparency, about 2 years ago. After I had felt that I had scaled to a certain point in the field, I decided to take a break, right, from what I was doing. I also had my own small contracting business, and running around New York City, just hustling, right? And I just felt it wasn't serving me anymore. So why stay, right? So I bought my farm thinking that I'm going to take a break from construction. So I decided to buy a farm. Don't ask me why I did that. It's not really much of a break, as you know, right? So I just kind of dove into that work for a little bit and knew that my background would support it and scaled that pretty quickly. Okay, like what's next? What's next? Do I want to go back into trades? Am I just completely tapping out, going to go into kind of just the entrepreneurship kind of route, right? And one day I got a phone call from someone who I had mentored briefly. He was transitioning into his time as a JW, as a journeyman wireman, and he had reached out and said, "Hey, Josh, listen, I would really love some mentorship. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on, but can you support me?" Right? And I kind of gave him the dad talk. Dylan, I was kind of like, hey man, listen, just keep doing what you're doing, keep showing up on time, keep working hard, and you're gonna get there. Rah, 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 right? I gave him that speech. And it was really interesting what transpired after I had said that. He said, no, Josh, I don't really think you're understanding what I'm asking you. I want to know all the steps you took to get where you are today. to where you had the opportunity where individuals were looking for you. Individuals were looking to bring you on. You were sought after. By the time you were 30, you had done everything you needed to do in the field. Like, how did you do it? I want to know from start to finish. So I said, okay, no problem. Let me think about that a little bit. It was a bit, the way he asked it, it was just, it kind of just like, it hit me here, right? And I said, okay, let me get back to you on that. So essentially, I started really coaching this kid, right? We talked about, I came in, I did a SWOT analysis on him as an individual. We came in, we started addressing SMART goals. He never heard of SMART goals before, right? And we started tapping into high impact leadership. So now I'm mentoring him over the course of a few weeks now, right? It's about maybe 6 weeks in. Then he says to me, Dylan, one day, "Hey Josh, would it be cool if I brought a couple other dudes on this call?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, just all good, right? I'm just looking to support the industry any way I can. Anyone who's willing to learn, I will make sure I serve them to my absolute highest capacity, right?" And this group ended up telling their friends, to make a long story short, so on and so forth. Uh, Within 6 months, I had 12 young, hungry construction professionals on a call with me once a week. And I said to myself, okay, like this is great, but this is starting to turn into this is a business model, right? So essentially, that's when I launched the Sender Consulting, right? And the idea of Ascender was to elevate construction professionals, right? So what kept me, right? To answer your original question, what made me stay? It goes back to what you said before. It was people. I saw that there was an issue with personal growth and development with individuals in the construction industry. I saw that people were the retention issues were just not there. The support was not happening on the back end for the workforce, helping them grow and helping them elevate within their role or beyond, right? And I felt that I had a recipe for it. And I do believe that there is a recipe for success, right? So I started working with these individuals and I found where I felt I needed to be. So from there, I said, okay, like I'm gonna scale this thing. Like I'm gonna really build this thing out and I'm gonna scale it. So this was my way back. This was my way back into the industry, right? But how was I gonna do it? No idea. All I'm doing is word of mouth and just kind of just this is all on the cuff right now. But you know, time is money, right? So from there, I built out the business model and I decided, and it started to really blow up. Clients were coming in all through social media. My LinkedIn started scaling pretty quickly, generating close to 1,000 connections a month as of today. Only starting this whole thing about, I mean, roughly, I'm going to say a year ago, and it just took off, man. And then I moved down to Florida, Tampa, Florida, and then I connected with Miller Electric, and they were kind of like, "Hey, what's your deal? What are you doing?" Right? And told them about it, sat down with their C-suite, some of their executives, and jumped on in workforce development. So essentially, what I was doing for myself, which I still continue to do, I'm now doing within $1 billion company, and I'm grateful, very grateful.
Yeah, and Miller just had a big acquisition there. So,
Yeah,
again, huge operation and been doing really cool things for a long time.
for
Um,
sure.
the thing I'd like to kind of go back to just for the audience here is um, do a couple definitions real quick for you guys. So SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats for those of you guys that don't know that. And then SMART goals. So uh specific, measurable, actionable, um what's R,
Relevant.
relevant, and time oriented, so you have a
Yeah,
time goal for it. So
yeah,
just real quick for all you guys that are probably wondering what SWOT and SMART goals are,
yeah.
uh that's super important. The other couple things that I want to point out here is um not that you weren't looking for anything, but that it was organic in how it happened, right? That it just felt right. And that was kind of even, I think that's almost a recurring theme for you here, Josh, is, it felt right and being in the van, going in the city, working summers, talking to people, it just kind of, it felt like home. And I think for a lot of you guys out there, like you may or may not haven't found that home, or a place that feels like home, that it feels good, that you like what you're doing. And some of it might be the teams that you're on, some of it might be the specific role that you have or certain aspects of the project, right? You might really just love being in the field and doing projects and executing on them. And that might be where you really feel at home. For you, Josh, it's talking to people, right? That's, I think, the recurring theme here is talking to people, helping them to grow. You kind of found your way through the industry, I would say, and now at a point where it's helping everybody else kind of come behind you and doing that for a lot of folks, right? Miller's a big company, and there's a lot of folks that need that. Uh, Not only internally, and to grow their careers, but also to attract people into the industry. And those that leave, we need everybody, right? Even if they don't stay at Miller or move across the country, even though I know you guys are national, but it's having that good word of mouth after somebody leaves, right? In a place that Miller maybe doesn't operate, is to have a good word of mouth, right? That if somebody called up that guy that left to say, hey, what was your experience here? Oh man, it was great. Things were awesome for me. I just, I moved to whatever, Minnesota, Montana, like a place where you guys just don't operate, um, or have, many projects or whatever. And so, I just couldn't work for them anymore. But, my time there was fantastic. And that's what we all want, right? Life happens to folks, or they take time away, or whatever might be the case, um, is to have that good word of mouth. So really in, workforce development, attracting talent, what do you see out there for a lot of companies? Obviously you had 12 folks that came to you word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we connected on LinkedIn. That's how I came across you. And, we scheduled this. So in doing that, like clearly what you're doing on LinkedIn is working, but what are you seeing out there for people that they're not doing in attracting talent, really to help develop folks? What's the big thing that's missing out there in the really the whole industry? And you can talk specifically for electrical contractors as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that I see too, as far as attracting, culture is huge. Culture is for me everything at this stage of my career. Um, for me to be in the Northeast and hear about a company like Miller Electric who's not planted in the Northeast is really saying something, right? When you think about what attracts people to Google, right? Typically, when you think of Google, you think of like the work environment, right? We've all seen the ball pits, we've seen the arcade games. Everybody's in a great spirit, right? That not even just a work-life balance, it's a work-life alignment, right? You see that and you're going, okay, like, well, these tech companies are figuring it out, right? How do we keep people here? What excites people? What excites this new generation, right? And so for me, culture is really important, company culture. And it almost like construction and company culture, they almost seem like they kind of like those two things don't seem like they gel, right? They don't seem like they marry well. But there are the companies that are doing that are really light years ahead of the ones who aren't, right? And I can think of a few right now. What attracted me to Miller when I met their people, I knew that it was the right fit. And this is a great example. I went to their headquarters, and prior to sitting down to C-suite, I did an office tour. And I'll be honest with you, Dylan, I thought coming from New York, it's a very metric driven environment. Production, 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 right? Which is, why I also think New York is the fastest growing and one of the greatest cities in the world, right? Has been for a long time, right? So Frank Sinatra said it, so it must be true, right? So, with that being said, for me, I came from a very high paced, high stress environment, and I knew that at this stage of my career, I didn't want that, but I also still wanted to uh, work with a company that was really the movers and shakers, right? So I saw what Miller was doing, but I saw that the culture they had in place within their company. And people could talk about it, they could talk about core values, but if you have any skin in the game or time invested in construction, you could read a room very quickly. You'll be able to tell if this is a healthy place or if it's just all fluff, right? So when I had went to HQ, I saw the way people were interacting with each other. I saw the way people were reaching out to me and just saying hello. They have never seen me before. New guy in the door with a very heavy New York accent, like, who's this guy, right? What's his deal? That wasn't the case. It was open arms from start to finish. And I knew that that was where I wanted to be. And they continue to attract young people by their business model, by their structure. How are they investing in you when you get here? Are they just putting tools in your hand? Do you have growth opportunities? Can you grow out of the field into the executive space? I can tell you several VPs, including my direct report, all came from the field. They're all individuals, even in the C-suite level. Our COO is a field guy, came through the apprenticeship program, and now he's the big cheese, and he's doing his thing, right? So they pour into their people, they invest in their people, and when I got there, that was one of my concerns, and that's what businesses need to do. What are the growth opportunities? Are they available to someone like me? And if they aren't now, will they be in the future? And if I don't have the skills now, will you give me the skills to get there? And prior to working with Miller, I knew that that would be available to me. Also, I feel like this is great to mention as well. I saw what a successful company looked like and how they operated out of the Northeast. I was with EJ Electric, who is $1 billion electrical contractor, been around since 1899. I was with them for 17 years. So I saw their business model. I saw how well they did. And I knew if I was going to go work for anyone else, they needed to have that and more. And Miller was able to make that happen.
That's awesome, man. I mean, and I think that's extremely important too, is seeing in these, especially if you go to work for, larger contractors, especially like, EJ's been over 100 years, right? 127 years. That's pretty impressive to be in business that
Wild, man.
long.
Wild.
Um, and it's like right when electricity started, right? They probably were working for Edison, or Tesla back in the day
Right, right,
in New
exactly.
York. So, I mean, that tracks, right?
Yeah.
um, so they've obviously done something right for a few things right over 100+ year span, 125.
I would think
And
so.
yeah, like you got to do a lot good, right? Especially, I'd imagine, well, in any market in construction, right? You kind of screw over too many people, you're not going to be in business for too long.
Yeah.
So you've got to continue to do good work, and going to work for those types of companies that have been around for a very long time, that are very successful, right? Doing $1 billion in revenue as a specialty contractor is not easy, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge milestone to hit. And with that, there's a lot of lessons, there's a lot of good practices, a lot of value that you can take out of organizations like that, learn how things should be done. And the only problem with that is you don't know what it looks like on the other side. You think the grass is greener, and then you go work somewhere else, you're like, oh man, I had it good, right? I had it too good, and I didn't know any better. And so when we're young, that's also part of the struggle, is you think you know everything, and you want to go somewhere else and try your hand at it, but at the same time you don't know how good you have it in some of these really world class organizations, right?
Yeah.
Miller, EJ, some of the other very big contractors out there. Again, they're doing a lot right, and again, maybe in an organization that big, you just were on a bad job with a foreman that could shouldn't have been there, right? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're going to get that in any world class organization, right? There's always going to be some guys that um, just aren't there for you.
Correct.
But what I want to pull out of this is that those lessons that you learn from these organizations you can take to the next place, whatever that might be. Obviously 17 years, I mean, that's a long time to be at any organization. And
Yeah.
so for guys out there thinking that, oh, this company isn't for me or whatever, it's like, are you having these conversations with your superiors? Like when you went down to Miller, you had those conversations with the C-suite of, hey, what's the opportunity? What's the growth trajectory? And you had that open and honest conversation. So my question here is for those young guys in the field, maybe they just got their journeyman's card, right? Or maybe they're an apprentice and they're, in their third, fourth, fifth year apprenticeship. What's kind of the advice you would give to those guys in trying to figure out not only where they want to go, but what their career could look like, as they go down the path?
Yeah. So, first thing is you need to be intentional about who you invest your time with. Um, I think many, many construction professionals that I work with privately and within Miller, right? They chase a paycheck. They're
Mm.
just, hey, I got my paycheck. That's all I look for. Although just even outside of Miller, right? People that I speak with or work with, they'll just apply. Dude, I just want to work for whoever. No, 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 no. And when we talk about setting SMART goals, the first word is be specific, right? Who do you want to work for and why? Turns out that there are a lot of companies that people want to work for, but why do you want to work with them? So that's one of the most important things. And make sure before you work with these companies, you know who they are. Don't just put out applications because you have this scarcity mindset. Oh, I need to, I'm just looking for a paycheck. I just want to be an electrician. No, 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 no. You need to work with the right people. You need to make sure whoever you decide to sign that dotted line with is going to get you wherever it is that you want to go. Dillon, I'll be very honest with you. When I came to Florida, I had no intention of working for anybody, right? I felt that at this point in my life, I was just going to stick with entrepreneurship. It was working out very well for me, right? With Ascender and with my own farm. My wife's also an entrepreneur, so she was guiding me and coaching me. So I knew I was on the right track. But I felt with what I was doing, I couldn't scale it. I couldn't do it at a bigger scale, right? So rightfully so, I have to think about, well, who could I work for to where I can essentially get on a plane if I need to and get in front of 100 people, 300 people that's going to back me and support these initiatives, right? And at the same time, support the growth of their own business. Young people, the best advice I can give is just be intentional who you want to work for. Do your homework on organizations. I was just at an event yesterday and I had one individual ask me, he wanted to get into the apprenticeship program in Tampa. He said, Josh, once I get the interview and he's slotted for it, what do I do? I said, can you tell me what IBEW stands for? Do you know what NICA is? Do you know what the JTC does? And he's kind of looking at me. And I said, okay, what questions do you have for your interviewers? He's like, he got it. He got it right away. Okay. So also with that alignment, knowing who you want to work for, when that opportunity is there, you need to be prepared. Know who it is that you are signing that dotted line with and be prepared to support them and ask them as many questions as you need to ask them. I've always felt an interview is a two-way street. If you go into an office and you sit down and you ask them, hey, tell me about your culture, and you get that deer in headlights look, I'll tell you to run as fast as you can, right? If you talk about growth opportunities and you get the deer in headlights look, run as fast as you can, right? These are things that I talk about with people quite a bit. But that really the key piece is just who you're signing the dotted line on with. Don't just try to find a company to work for the sake of a paycheck. You want a company to pour in and invest in you, right? And they're looking for someone who is obviously going to grow and scale within the company. Like Miller, average employee retention is 15 years. Miller, EJ was 15 plus years. Why do people stay with them? It's not just because of the paycheck. It's because EJ, Miller, and Quanta Services, these big companies invest in their people, they mentor their people, they give them the tools they need to be successful. You need to work with those companies if you want to grow. And another thing I want to mention too, Dylan, this is important for me personally. When people look at my resume, I want them to go, okay, this kid only played for the Yankees. He played with the Yankees. He played with the teams that won the World Series multiple times, right? I feel like I really need my resume to speak to um, the large scale and I would say the best in the business, if that makes sense. I never want someone to look at my resume and say, "Oh man, like who's that? Hey, he did a year here, a year there, 6 months here, 6 months there." No, they see 17 years with a company like EJ or workforce development with a company like Miller. They go, "Okay, this kid's serious. He's serious, right?" And that's again, that goes back to my original point. You need to be intentional about who you work for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said in there. One is the intentionality is huge. I think it's not just what you do on the job, right? Whatever those 10, 12 hours are a day, 8, 10, 12, whatever you guys are working um, on a daily basis. It's not just that time. It's what are you doing on your nights, weekends? Are you reading other books, listening to podcasts on your drive into work? Like what are you doing to grow yourself outside of, from the time you step foot onto a job site to the time you leave?
Yeah,
Um, that those development hours, again, whether it's a podcast, reading any book, listening to audiobooks, whatever that might be, that educational time that you invest into yourself is massive. It's
yeah,
done wonders for me. I imagine it's done some wonders for you or
yeah,
your career.
yeah,
um like that. I think that's really the big thing that you're getting at here too, is learning some perspectives, whether you're reading biographies, of the men who built America, of Tesla, of Edison, of all those guys, that came before us and how they put things together. You talk about New York and real estate, like there's a lot of icons that have come out of New York that have built a lot of great things. You've got your shipping magnates, your guys that have just done a lot, right? Banking magnates, Morgan. Like there's so many men who have done incredible things, that learning about them, their lives, what they did, what they went through, how they built the industries that they were involved in, from steel to railroads to contractors, like that's worth investing your time into. So I think that's one intentionality that you guys can leave here with today, is to invest in yourself to figure out where you want to go with your life. Um, it's your life. It should be your decision.
yeah, yeah,
um, and then the next thing that I want to touch on too is in the intentionality of who you go to work for and the types of projects that you get to be a part of. For me, like you look at mine, and I kind of moved every few years after college, but I did arc flash for 5 years, took a job as I got my license in my MBA, and then from there I ended up getting a management position and leading a department, which in my business usually got to wait for somebody to die or retire and that could take a while.
yeah,
So to your point on some of these things, there is a time aspect, right? Like you could have grown your consulting practice, and that might have taken who knows how long, but by joining a company like Miller, right, you're able to get in front of hundreds of people very quickly and develop your skills, your talents, your abilities, and it adds to your resume.
right,
um, like for me personally, it's why, at such a young age and only been in the industry for 13 years, I have $1 billion worth of construction under me, is because of that, right? And getting my license, leading departments, leading teams, there's a lot of drawings with my names on them at the end of the day.
yeah,
And, you're able to kind of leap through that and work on big projects um, very quickly in your career because of that, right? And doing not only doing great work, but going to work for organizations that are doing big projects, and that puts you on great opportunities. Like the Freedom Tower, for example. I mean, iconic project. unfortunately, I was there in New York a week before it opened. And
Oh, wow.
I was running past it. I ran through Central Park and all around that area. And I'm like, hey, can I go in? And they're like, it's open on Monday.
Oh, man.
And I just haven't been back since. And I was there for a BIM conference actually, when the
Nice.
Freedom Tower was going to open. So um, I can't let this conversation fall short without mentioning the Freedom Tower again, because that is a very iconic project. But one of the things in that, before else where we go into falling short and kind of wrapping up here, Josh, is what was it like to work on a project that is going to be that iconic, right? That people will know that building the world over.
Yeah. So a big part of that goes, how I got there was also advocating for myself and saying I wanted the opportunity, right? I had conversations with at the time, I was just a sub foreman coming up through the ranks and spoke to my super. I said, hey, this is a really, really important job, clearly, right? And I need to be there. And for certain reasons, my father lost two individuals that worked for his company in the towers. My dad had maintenance in both towers. So that's just a quick backstory. And it actually put my dad out of business when the towers fell.
Mm,
So for me to know that my company, EJ, touched every major project in New York City, and when I knew that they had the opportunity, when they landed a part of that project, I knew that I needed to get there. And so being on a job like that, I can, in my early mid 20s, number one, it was very intimidating. It was massive. Even just getting on the Alamax, there was three separate Alamax that would transition up the side of the building. Very intimidating, right? Again, mid 20s on a job with hundreds of electricians and then getting to a point where I'm asked to lead, a small crew and eventually scaling that crew up was super rewarding. And I feel like it was me putting a nail in the coffin in my father and so many other people's, I would say, traumatic experience, from that time. And also, fun fact, they landed the spire. I was able to write my father's name in the tower, which was amazing. And there were several other people, clearly their names were etched in that building and it will be there forever. So to be asked to work on that project along with the Brooklyn Bridge, Empire State Building, United Nations, those are just things that I will always not just have on my resume, but I'll have here for myself. And there will never be another Freedom Tower, just like there will never be another Twin Tower or Empire State Building. And having that is just something that I guess you could say it's just the gratification and this. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying to know that I was part of that, and not just me. I was a very small part of that project compared to the thousands of people that were there, from the steam fitters to the iron workers to the plumbers, especially the hundreds of other electricians, and just grateful to be a part of that. It's just best in class stuff, man.
yeah, and I mean those are the types of opportunities, and projects that you can have on your resume when you work for, large contractors. I mean that they get those types of opportunities, and it's again working in engineering and architecture firms that work on iconic projects or big facilities, big manufacturing plants, hospitals, all that kind of work has allowed me to go and work on a lot of big projects,
Yeah.
um, some of which folks will never hear, but that's okay when you're doing, a couple million square feet of industrial facilities. Like,
Right.
again, it's, that you have a part in it and whatever they're producing for really at that scale, it's to the nation or to the world. Those are
Yeah. Yeah.
big, big,
Amazing.
big plants. And I guess this goes into my last question here before we kind of wrap up is where else are we as an industry falling short? We talked a little bit about workforce development, giving folks a plan, providing training, providing opportunities. Obviously, the bigger you are, you have more opportunities. But even in these small projects, I think you can, or small firms, you start to, if you work for those, you end up taking on more responsibility You might not work on as big a project, but your burden in some ways might be heavier
Yeah.
than in the larger companies. Um, but what can we do as an industry to really um, help empower people to come into it, as well as develop our people through it? You know, I'm working here locally. I live in Northern California in the kind of foothills of the Sierras outside of Yosemite, and starting to work with local workforce development to offer like CAD training. We're doing it with ABC NorCal, and starting to try to work with the unions and providing like BIM training for folks, and just like, hey, what is this BIM thing? Well, okay, let's do an hour course on
Yeah.
what BIM is. You know, I can't train you an hour, but we can at least do some basics for it, and offering that through ABC, through IBEW, you know, and all those organizations to kind of help folks understand a lot of that. But again, where can firms help either bring people into the trades construction, you know, and the $1 trillion industry that we are, as well as, you know, what can we help to improve uh, in retaining those guys and keeping them within the industry.
Yeah. So big part of that is attracting people. We know that there, over the next few years, there's going to be a massive exodus of retirees. And they say, right, for every eight that leave, one is coming in, which is not good, right? Especially with all the work that we have coming up with all the data centers, hospitals. It's crazy, right? AI is taking over. So, how do we attract? One thing that I do on a regular basis is we need to get in front of young people. We need to get in front of young people. We need to make it very clear that the construction industry is not a linear path, right? These are the multiple career pathways that are available to you. You said it early in the beginning. We have estimators, we have engineers, we have licensed master electricians, we have our journeymen, our superintendents, our foremen. The list can go on and on, right? So we need to put that on the table. They need to understand that. The other part of that is they need to understand the work that they're going to be getting themselves into. Putting tools in young people's hands. I do this quite often, right? I will set up a day, and there are many companies that can do this. They can host it locally or at a larger scale, host a workshop, and I will set up stations and I will make sure they know what it is to pull wire. They know what it is to work in the heat. They know what it is to see the work live happening in person. I'll host a workshop. I will host a showcase where they get to, I'll do like a video slides. I will get construction workers to facilitate a showcase where they are talking about their day to day, what it looks like, all the wonderful benefits behind the industry. These young people don't know what they don't know, right? The IBW to me has always been like the best kept secret. In some of the northern states, due to them being heavier union, California, New York, right? It's very front facing. IBEW, boom, that's where you want to be, right? But some places in the South or even in the Midwest, they just don't know what they don't know, right? So we need to talk about these things, right? And then as far as retaining people, goes, we have to really talk about servant leadership. You said something before that was super important. Hey, what's BIM? I don't know what BIM is. I don't have all day to talk about what BIM is, right? But I can give you the bare necessities to have a good understanding and for you to get the ball rolling on your own behalf, right? We need to serve people. I can't tell you how many times I walk on a job site and I'll speak with a foreman or I'll speak with a young journeyman and they'll say, or a journeyman may say, "Hey Josh, can you mentor me?" It's like, of course I can, right? Or a foreman who says, "Hey Josh, I want to take on bigger projects, but I'm not confident in that right now. I just do service work. But I want to touch the 5 million, $10 million jobs. I know you did it. Can you coach me?" Right? Uh, Yes, I can. I can do that, right? And we need more servant leaders in the industry, right? We're not here. You're not here to just serve yourself. This business is a people-driven business. The highways, the buildings, the hospitals, the data centers, our industry is to serve people. And we need to adopt that same mindset as leaders and make sure that trickles down. So, to really you want to retain people, you want to keep people, we need servant leaderships in the construction workplace.
I totally agree. I mean, there's so much in here that we could spend.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Obviously, it's an entire career for you, but for all of us, it is people, right? It's people that we help, it's people that we serve, it's the building serving people on an ongoing basis once we've done our part and gone. And again, there's a lot of space for everybody in here, and the guys that um want to move up in projects. One thing I will say in here is if you do 10 $2 million projects a year, that's equivalent of doing one $20 million project.
Yeah.
So like don't forget about that. Is the big project might be flashy and iconic, but you're still carrying the same revenue load that might ultimately be more profitable for the company.
Right. Right.
And so like don't forget about that, guys. As you go up, it might be a flashier project to talk about, but still carrying, if you're managing $20 million of projects, in some ways it's more impressive to juggle 10 than one large one.
Yeah.
uh, but they each have their pros and cons, but know which ones you like. Do you like quick hitters that you're in and out of faster? Do you like bigger slogs of a job sometimes?
Yeah.
What is your flavor of work and pace? And again, this goes to all the stuff that Josh talked about, it being intentional with your career, with your choices, with your growth path, with what that looks like within the firm that you're working for, and just the conversations that you have with leadership. So, Josh, thank you so much for being here today, for
Thank
taking
you,
the
man.
time out of your schedule. Where can they find you? I know I found you on LinkedIn, but where can everybody go to learn more about you, what you're up to, and everything that again, I've really enjoyed your posts and the content that you're putting out.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn, no matter what level you are at. If you want to get in front of multiple businesses, from the small ones to the big ones, and all the professionals that work within those industries and those businesses, hop on LinkedIn, get off TikTok. Instagram's okay, but what we talked about before, continuous education. That's what I love about LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of social media out there. There's a lot of fluff in there, a lot of garbage out there too. And what I love about LinkedIn, it is a professional platform, and it is a perfect place for blue collar workers, from apprentices to the executive space, to advocate for themselves. So if you want to connect with me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You could DM me, message me. I try to get back to as many people as I can, and let's connect.
Awesome. Again, Josh, thank you so much for being here. And guys, until next time, that's this episode of the Construction Corner Podcast.